It's such an intense story, but will you share, like, I look up to your sister because of that story. Can you give people a taste of it?
Yeah. And, remember, she's in the middle of struggling with cystic fibrosis, and
Life threatening.
it's not going well, right? And she's down to under 50% lung capacity, and it's shrinking by the month. And she just feels sick. She just feels like she has the flu all the time, right? Just low energy. And every now and then, maybe like once or twice a month, she gets a couple hours of spike of energy and she starts doing a project, and then she never can finish it because her energy left her again. And it was fun to see her get that energy, but it was also hard to see it leave her. Uh, One time, my younger brother Ben and I, we decided to drive down to Arizona to see her and her husband. And they moved down there, hopefully that the warmer weather would be helpful for her health. And he took a job that he didn't really love, but it had good insurance, and he was a correctional officer at the prison. And so we started driving down there. They got super excited. Things were going pretty good for them. Um, they had been trying to have a child and were unsuccessful, and they had just barely adopted a little boy, brand new boy, and he was a month or two old. And they found out that Susie was pregnant. So, I mean, unlikely situation, but they're super jazzed. We're driving down there. It's about an 8 hour drive to get there. And about 4 hours into it, Susie realizes that she doesn't have anywhere for Ben and I to sleep. And so she asks her husband if he'll go to the store and grab some air mattresses for us to sleep on. And so he gives her a kiss. He takes their only car. She holds on to their only cell phone in case, we can't find the place. And he goes to Walmart, grabs some air mattresses. On the drive home, he sees a boy laying in the middle of the road underneath the light pole. And it's dark. It's pretty late at night, probably 11 o'clock at night. And he wasn't the outgoing type, but he was the big hearted type. So he got out of the car and he went up to this boy to see if he could help figure out what was wrong and if he was okay. Uh, but it was an ambush. And one of his buddies was hiding behind the pole with a shotgun. And he ended up putting the shotgun to my brother in law's chest. He put his arms in the air and he pulled the trigger. And from the murderer's own account, when he was laying on the cold asphalt bleeding out, he told him, "Give me your keys in no uncertain terms." And he was holding the keys to their vehicle in his hand, and he said, "No, my wife needs this car." And then he finished him off, took the keys. They went to a drug party. The cops, a couple hours later, knocked on Susie's door, and she didn't know where her husband was. And we were hitting some dead spots as we drove down there. And when the cops came, she knew that Brad was gone. And I still remember Susie called us, and her voice was frantic, and she clearly something was wrong. And when she knew that we could finally hear her, she said, called us by name and said, "Somebody murdered my husband." And that's a tough experience. She now has a new born adopted boy in her arms and an unborn, what would become a son in her womb. And the love of her life is gone because he decided to stop and help some people or a young boy that looked like and pretended that he was in need. Well, the cops had their ear to the ground, and one of the boys bragged at school that they had killed a good Samaritan, and the cops quickly took them in and got their confession. They both actually said that they were the one laying in the street, and the other one was the one that was hiding and then pulled the trigger. And today we still don't know which one pulled the trigger, but we know they were both there. And over a year later, the night before their sentencing, Susie was asked to share her impact statement in court. She accepted to go in there in court and look these two murderers in the eye. And they were young. They were, I think, 14 and 15 years old. I mean, shockingly young. And she read to me the impact statement that she had written. And it shared how difficult this was to lose the love of her life, and how difficult it was to be a single mother, and all the things that were taken from her because of their selfish acts. And then she had written out how she was going to look at both of them and tell them that she forgives them, and that she didn't want them to live their whole life in prison, and that she wanted them to forgive themselves, and that she wanted them to build a relationship with their own God, whoever that was, and to build a good life for themselves. And I remember after she shared that, I mean, it's tough. It's so easy to be full of resentment and hatred and revenge. But really, that's the easy way out. And it's so unfulfilling. Gives you just a little bit of a relief and then leaves you wanting. And Susie figured something else out. She told me, I said to her, wow, Susie, you're a strong woman for choosing to act and react in this way. And I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, no, Lloyd, strength is not something that I have right now. I'm very weak, and forgiveness is the gift that I'm giving myself, because holding it back would kill me. And she chose to give herself and those that she loved most the gift of her forgiving, instead of being holding that back and choosing to be full of resentment and hatred. And I don't know of another circumstance that resentment and hatred is more justified. But as I'm not discounting how horrible it is, and I'm not saying that forgiveness actually eliminates the pain, because it doesn't. But while resentment and hatred are more like taking a mild pain reliever that never actually works, but takes the mild edge off, forgiveness in her experience was more like taking an antibiotic that over time healed her from the inside out. It never takes away the snake bite, but it purifies the blood so that you don't actually die. And so there are some great lessons that I learned from her. That's why I dedicated the book to her. And it's helped me in looking around at others, not just her, others as well, my wife, my mom, my brothers, my friends, and seeing, whoa, there's a really a neat lesson that I can learn from your experience. Because I'll tell you what, I don't want to learn every lesson from my own experiences.
No kidding. What a powerful story.
No, thank you.